All right, I'm gonna be honest. I just got home, I had a few drinks, had a nice chicken sando, nice time, but I'm just feeling a little existentially terrified. Just that slight bit of feeling like a tsunami of uncertainty is running over the village that is your mind. You know that feeling? And I'm gonna be honest. The title of this video, a little bit of a lie. I don't believe in God now. I don't. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is I'm not so sure how to say that I don't believe in God anymore. And that is weird for me because I know you don't know nothing about me, don't know nothing about little old Adam, but I spent 12 years going to a private Catholic school where I was the resident atheist. I would spend all of religion class berating the teachers, doing little slam dunks on God, reading the Bible, finding dumb parts of it. I spent the entirety of my freshman and sophomore year of high school posting on Quora, just answering questions about God, thinking I had the answers to everything. I was even on this Jesus follower TV show where I was the resident skeptic. And I was those little 14-year-old Adam with his little beat headphones around his neck asking skeptical questions to whatever religious figure was on that week. And that was my identity. So this is just unsettling. It's just weird and I don't feel comfortable with it. Now you might ask, what's causing you to feel so uncomfortable? And you know who it is? It's this guy. This dude. May have heard of him, Descartes. Yeah, this beta male said some words that are kind of messing with my brain a little bit, and I really don't appreciate it. Now you might ask, what words did he say? Well, specifically, I'm talking about his causal argument for God's existence. Pretty basic. If you've ever read any Descartes, you've probably run across it. It's a very foundational argument of his, and it goes something like this. All of our ideas have causes. I have an idea of redness that I get from experiencing red things. I have an idea of hardness I get from experiencing hard things. I have an idea of number that I get from experiencing a number of things. So if I see 2 apples, I have an idea of 2. But here's the hiccup. I also have an idea of infinity. So where does that idea come from? An infinite thing? Well, what sort of thing is infinite? Is it possibly the Christian God? And that's basically the whole argument. We have an idea of infinity. It has to come from somewhere. It can't come from finite things, so it comes from God. Slam dunk, whole thing over. That's the argument. God exists. And this is not a new argument to me. I heard this during my first philosophy class in college 6-7 years ago, and when I heard it, I just scoffed. Dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, it's just stupid. Clearly, I can construct my idea of infinity from something that is not infinite. It's really easy. I'll do it right now. I have an idea of a finite thing, of this mushroom water bottle, and I think of it as a contained thing, a single thing. And so, if I want to construct the idea of the infinite, I just think about the opposite of this, a thing that isn't contained, a thing that isn't singular, and then voila, I have the idea of infinity, and then it's over. And I now have that idea in my head, and I never needed to experience an infinite thing. And for 6 straight years, that was perfectly good for me. I thought that was a good argument. I didn't need to look into it anymore. I was good. I heard the professor say it, wrote down something sassy on my notebook, and then closed it and never thought about it again. But then, recently, for reasons I'm not going to get into, I was in that class again. I was sitting there, just auditing the class, heard that argument again, and I was like, oh, I remember this dumb thing. Wrote it down. I was like, oh, this is stupid. But I'm an adult boy now, so I wanted to research it a little bit. I've been trying to look into things a bit more. So I read the objections to Descartes' argument and his replies to the objections. And I found out he actually responded to my response to his argument. And I just never read it. And so I read his response. And you know what? He might actually be right. I might have been dumb. And that's not okay. Because what if he's right? Okay, I need to back up. Let me explain. His response to my response to his argument is that I cannot construct the idea of the finite or the idea of the infinite from the finite because I need to construct my idea of the finite from the infinite. A little bit of an Uno reverse card. And now you may say, well, what's the difference? They're both the opposite of each other. You can start with one and produce the other. But Descartes says, oh, no. And I think he might be right. Let me explain. What do I mean when I say something is finite? Well, I mean to say it is bounded. It is a thing, and it contains properties, and those properties are contained in the object and not outside of the object. Let me show you an example. This is a little crocheted mushroom that my sister made for me. It's goddamn adorable. It has properties such as it's orange with little white dots representing the universal veil that happens when a mushroom grows. It has a sort of tan stem, it's a little squishy, and it's small. It has all these properties. They are contained within the object and not outside of the object. And that's how I can break it apart from the external world. So it is a bounded object. It is within this little bounding box. But what does it mean to bound an object? What does it mean to make it a finite thing? Well, it means that you cut it up from something else. I bound it away from other stuff. In this case, the rest of the room. But how can you create a finite thing without there then first being the infinite stuff that you construct finite things from? There has to be something that you cut up in order to construct finite things. There has to be a world, an infinite thing, that you then break up into individual finite things. Otherwise, in what sense is it finite? It means it's bounded. It means that it's not infinite. It means you've constrained it. But what does it mean to constrain? It means to take a thing and then constrain it. So what is the thing? It's the infinite. And that fucked my head up for like 2 straight weeks. I did not know what to do with myself. I kept reading articles, couldn't find anything about it. I read like 10 articles about the psychology of infinity and like people doing studies with young kids and whether they had a proper idea of infinity, trying to figure out whether this was true. And I'm gonna be honest, for a long period of time, I just thought that he was right and that there was nothing that I could say because he's correct, and that in order to construct the idea of the finite, you need the idea of the infinite. And that messed me up. And honestly, I'm still a little messed up. I mean, I'm not sure that he's wrong about that. It is a pretty solid argument. However, a couple days ago, scrolling through some pieces of paper, well, specifically his book, and I ran into another response that he had to an objection by this guy like Gassendi or something, it doesn't matter, where he made a distinction between the infinite and the indefinite in order to defend his position against something Gassendi was saying. And this is where I think that we might have a way out. For all of you people who are now immediately persuaded and are shaking in your britches because you don't want to believe in God because then every time you do something bad, you'd get in trouble for it, I think we have a way out. The way out is to say that the way that you cut up the mushroom from the external world is not by cutting up an infinite thing, but rather by cutting up an indefinite thing. Now, what does that mean? It means that when you have your visual field that is this YouTube video, that thing, when it comes into your eye, is not infinite. It's not that there's an infinite number of pixels. It's just that before your brain has done the work of cutting up all the pixels into this handsome face, this cute bracelet, and that mushroom, it's merely indefinite. It is yet to be distinguished and broken up individual pieces, but that doesn't mean that it's infinite. It can merely be indefinite. And that might be a way out. This might be how we resolve this. To say that instead, what is foundational is indefiniteness. And we take this broad indefiniteness and then turn it into the definite, i.e. the finite. And then if anything, indefiniteness is fundamental. But I don't really think that Descartes would be pleased with the idea of just an indefinite God. So we might be able to save it there. Now, I'm honestly not so sure if this is true or not, just kind of throwing it out there, but it's a possibility. But I do have a few other things to say that could help calm us down, or at least calm me down in the middle of this psychotic rant that I'm going on. First of all is that even if I'm wrong about all this and the infinite does come first, that doesn't really show, I think, what Descartes wants it to show, because infinite is not the only attribute that God has. People tend to think it's like a dude sitting in a chair judging you, and he has done nothing to establish that. So you don't got to worry about, someone judging you for doing drugs or something like that. It just means that infiniteness exists. If anything, this could be just a roundabout way of proving that the universe itself is infinite. That might be all that it establishes, which would itself be significant, but would not demonstrate the sort of things that I think Descartes wants it to demonstrate. A second thing is that there might be some other ways out of this argument. Specifically, we need a cause for our idea of the infinite, but maybe that cause isn't something external to us. Maybe we ourselves are infinite. Now, you might be ready to click off this video because that sounds kind of insane, and I don't know if this is true or not, but there are actually some decent arguments here. When researching this, I found an entire dissertation, like 200 pages long, by some guy that was exclusively arguing this, that Descartes' theory actually does indicate that there are parts of ourselves that are infinite, and that could be the source of our idea of the infinite rather than God. I'm not going to get too much into detail here, but basically Descartes breaks up our existence into a series of components such as the will and the intellect. And he says that our will is actually infinite, meaning it's not constrained. My ability to assent or deny a certain state of things, for me to say that that crocheted mushroom is cute or that yellow is an ugly paint color, my ability to agree or disagree is not limited by anything, and that is infinite. And maybe that could be the source of my idea of the infinite. Another option is that I'm infinite in some other way. I mean, there are a lot of other religions that believe this. So, for instance, Buddhism often will defend that in moments of meditation, you experience yourself as the infinite one. And it could be that once you have relaxed your brain and stopped breaking up the world into these individual finite pieces in an act of meditation where you clear your mind, you experience the infinite. Although in that case, it seems more likely that what you're experiencing is the indefinite and we're just misattributing it to the infinite. And it's just another indication that the infinite is not what's fundamental. Also, a lot of people do drugs and think that they experience the infinite. I mean, if you pop enough acid, you probably think that you're experiencing the infinite right then. And I don't think that Descartes would defend that acid is a way to see God. So that might be another way to defend that just our visual perception itself is infinite and that it then gets broken up into individual pieces later on. Not so sure if any of those things are true. I just realized I did this all in one take, and this is a bit psychotic, but that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna be honest, don't know whether I'm right about this. I'm still probably gonna have to go read like 10 more articles before I figure this all out. So if you have any thoughts, please tell me. I'm gonna link my Twitter here somewhere. I have like 7 followers, so if you message me, I will notice. I post way too much and I don't get any replies because I post weird things. So if you respond to me on there, I will most definitely see it within minutes. And so, reach out, please. I acted confident near the end there, but I'm not. I don't know what's going on, and I would really appreciate if someone could help me because I don't want to be a theist.